Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another Glamour video for Final Fantasy XIV. This time around, I wanted to debut my brand new photo studio area, made entirely with white screens that you can purchase from housing vendors in housing estates, and basically just use GPOs for the lighting. It's pretty much the best thing ever for showcasing new items, so that's probably how we're going to go forward. This time we're actually making a glamour for the ruby weapons, specifically this time around for tanks. We'll probably do some other classes in the future. I'm a massive fan of the ruby weapons, and I know that I'm not entirely alone with that love. However, there are quite a few people out there in the community that just don't like their style, and that's completely fine. But I love them, and I wanted to make a glamour for them specifically today. Directly, I wanted something to go with my paladin sword and shield, as this is something I acquired recently. It's probably my favorite of the tanks this time around that you can get from ruby weapon, purely based on the sheer size and quality of that ruby shield, and that sword is quite nice as well. If you're wondering how to get your ruby weapons, well, you actually have to clear ruby weapon on extreme difficulty and either collect 10 tokens from clears or get lucky with a drop of the one you want and actually win it. There will actually be a ruby weapon extreme guide on the channel shortly, if there isn't already. This set then I call the Ruby Punisher. It's primarily themed around the use of wine red dye, which is the closest matching dye to go with the ruby weapons themselves. To get a set that didn't look out of place, I had to find metallic textured gear for the tank that dyed pretty much the same way. Additionally, I decided to challenge myself here to not use more than one piece from the same set. That would be far too easy, especially with the Eureka stuff I have unlocked. So here then it is. From head to toe, every slot where possible will be dyed wine red dye. For the helm, I went with the deep gold helm of fending. This is actually a level 70 tanking helm, and you probably got this whilst leveling, as it comes from the white oak head gear coffers, the ones that you actually get for completing the main storyline missions at the start of Shadowbringers. You can also buy this from vendors in Kagane and other parts of the world, I believe. It might be a common headpiece to get, but when I first laid eyes on this, I knew I wanted to eventually do something with it. It's very medieval and honestly has aesthetics that could work for both a sort of futuristic style glamour and medieval takes alike. After sifting through quite a few helm ideas, this is the one I eventually gravitated to go with the chest choice. For the chest then, I went with the Gordian plate mail of fending. This is from the Alexander 8-player raid series. It's one of my favourite tanking chests in the entire game. It offers great dye ability, and in this case reflects a perfect wine red to suit the other surfaces on the gear. The idea then here is to make a set that flows together seamlessly, and I decided this, whilst not the most recent example we could use in the game, does provide such detail and the gold or brass inlay that complements the other pieces I've chosen really well, and that's why I went with it. For the gloves, I chose the high mithrite gauntlets of fending. These are actually a level 60 pair of gloves crafted with Master Armorer 4 recipe. They are once again something you could just buy from the market board if you wanted to, but it's the simple nature of their actual design coupled with how they dye that makes these a perfect choice, leaving that brassy gold section and letting the wine red affect just enough of the texture that makes them perfect as an accompaniment for that chest, in my opinion, and the design doesn't clash too much. I love them, they are underused, underrated, and are fairly cheap to acquire. What's not to love? For the legs, I went with the Elemental Trousers of Fending +1. These are the dyeable part of the Eureka armor set that you can build in Eureka. As a result, they may be tricky for some new players to acquire. Whilst initially you will look on and think, well, you don't really see much of the legs and there are some great alternatives that you could use, you'd be absolutely right, and there are plenty of things that are easier to get that would look just as good probably. But for as long as I looked, I couldn't find something that I wanted to use more for this set than these elemental trousers, simply because of how muscular the features on the legs were displayed with the metal. It's something quite unique, and it reminded me more of Ruby Weapon itself than anything else on offer, which is why I eventually went for them. And finally, for the armor on the left side, we have the Doman Iron Greaves of Fending, a wonderful set of boots that covers the majority of your leg and dyes perfectly with wine red for use in this set. It doesn't look weak or narrow like a lot of the leg armor that we could have gone for, and remember that this is still a female character at the end of the day, so a lot of the things that look more bulky on males don't actually have the same result here if we try them out. It's a great set of boots and can be bought from vendors in Kagane or crafted with a very basic level 64 armorer recipe. And then obviously to finish this off, we have the Ruby Broadsword and the Ruby Scrutum here from Ruby Weapon Extreme, the sword and shield. This set works for all tanks, so you could use any of the other tanking weapons with this as well. Notably, I would say the Warrior Axe is a really nice weapon as well, and goes quite well in my opinion with this. Either way, you could probably do a lot better than I have, and I'm sure you have a ton of your own ideas. Throw your own suggestions below for what you would use for your ideal Ruby weapon set. Let me know what you think of the Ruby weapon glamour I've come up with today, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.